We get this hour underway with a chat to Richard Fuller. Richard is the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Richard, I'm not really sure what to ask you. I'm not really sure what to talk about. I'm a bit embarrassed having you here because no one is talking about you guys these days. There was no mention of you at the Labour Party conference. I mean, what is it? Are you relevant anymore?
Well, one of the first rules in politics that you learn is that you frame the choices you want. Pick the opponent that you want. And it's clear that Keir Starmer's bizarre attack yesterday was that he's trying to frame the choice as between Labour and Reform, because he thinks Reform, notwithstanding what their poll position now, is an easier opponent to beat in the long term. But you'll be hearing from the Conservatives next week about our policies, about our views on things, and also about things that matter to the British public, which is, tackling the cost of living and making different choices on public spending so we can live within our means and not keep going back to people and asking for more taxes.
It's interesting that you say that Reform UK are the easier party to beat, but they're actually the party that's setting the political weather at the moment. They're leading far ahead in the polls. I mean, they look to be, according to the polls, the next government in waiting. And then you've got Kemi Badenoch on the front page of the Express saying she'd make a great Prime Minister. I mean, many people would listen to you and read that headline this morning and say, you're delusional.
Well, look, I mean, if you look at sort of why has Reform got such a large amount of votes since the election, I mean, the main reason for that is people had such expectations about a change in government that it would bring change, and Labour have mishandled the economy. Rachel Reev's disastrous budget last year means more taxes this year, and so people are saying, this is terrible too, so we've got to look for something else. So I think the first thing is what's motivating that. Second is on the particular issue of immigration. People are saying we need a solution, and the government doesn't seem to have it. The Conservative Party, and the last Conservative Party, we had the Rwanda policy. That I still think should be the core of it. But until political parties come forward, and this government in particular now, because it has the reins of office, and solves for the public satisfaction, it tells British public, to their satisfaction, it's got a grip on immigration, Reform will ride high. But remember, coming into the next election, if immigration isn't the key issue, then Keir Starmer may be right, and Reform may start to fade as a political force.
But until then, to wait and see if that happens, Richard. What Starmer did yesterday, he picked Nigel Farage as the main issue as opposed to migration. And I thought, although his performance on stage was very good, I thought his message was very bad. I thought it was wrong. I thought that he's really out of touch with what the general public are thinking. It was a message for conference, yes, understand that, but not a message that the country was waiting to hear.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, the British public have known about Nigel Farage for many, many years now. So they're perfectly able to make their own judgments about Nigel Farage's character. They don't need the Prime Minister telling them what to think about one particular leader. What they wanted to hear from the Prime Minister, who can make decisions right now on their behalf, was what is the government doing about the cost of living? Inflation has doubled since the last election. What is it that's coming down the track in terms of tax increases? He sort of made a sort of quick, oh, thank you, businesses, kind of, blah, blah, blah. But he whacked businesses with a huge amount of tax increases last year, which is now working its way through to price increases that people feeling when they go to the supermarket, do their grocery shop, or when they look at their energy bills. And the Prime Minister didn't spend any time talking about that. So I think it was a really unseemly speech from a Prime Minister that didn't address the issues of the British public. And next week, the Conservative Party will fill that gap and talk about those issues and say what the Conservative Party would do when we return to office.
And just finally, what do you make of the language that we've been hearing from the Labour front bench at this party conference? We've had the Prime Minister, the Education Secretary, the Health Secretary, the Home Secretary, all describing Nigel Farage, all his policies, as racist in recent days. David Lammy even going so far as to saying that Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth before actually climbing down and apologising later on. But how does that language make you feel? I mean, Nigel Farage saying that this is insightful, inciting violence towards Reform UK. What do you make of it?
Well, sort of abusing your opponents, political opponents, is not smart politics. There are legitimate reasons to point at reform and say where they've got things wrong, but those should be about the policies of reform. You know, I'm a conservative. You know, reform seems to me to be far too keen on raising benefits. We, as the Conservative Party, want to rein in welfare. Reforms policies on net zero fell apart, and they've got to rethink those. You could talk about their ability to think of policies there. And yes, on immigration, it's perfectly reasonable to have differences of view on some of the policies that reform have. But that doesn't mean making these broad claims and then a few hours later having to retract them, say, oh, no, I didn't really mean it. That kind of hit-and-run rhetoric is very damaging to British politics.
Richard, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Richard Fuller is the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury and previewing the Conservative Party conference, which will be held in Manchester from the weekend.